Hey guys, Alex here with Paragon Performance. Today we're going to be showing you how to install the automatic taillights with RGB. These are going to have all the same features and functions as the regular automatic taillight. However, you now have RGB lights in them and a controller to control those lights. With that controller, you have 120 different preset light patterns, as well as all of your solid colors. You can control brightness, saturation, and how fast it moves through those patterns. They're a pretty neat option. Let's get to this install. All right, so let's get started taking our bumper off. We're gonna open the deck lid here. And we're gonna start by removing these 16 T15 screws here across the top. There is one hidden one here on each side that we do need to take out as well. Let's get to taking some screws out. All right, moving to the underside of the bumper here, we need to remove these two T15s and these three 7mm screws here. We'll need to do this on both sides. All right, so let's get this splash guard removed here. There's a few clips here along the outside edge. Using a panel pry tool, just reach in and unclip them. And that gives us access to the two T15s here, holding the fender liner to the bumper. And now, as you can see, we do have the wheel off on this car. It's not necessary to do that, but it does make it easier to get to some of this hardware. And it gives you a little more space because next we're headed up in behind the fender liner here to unbolt the bumper from the fender. But we're gonna take and move this fender liner out of the way. You can bend and prop this up however you need to. You can actually hold it out of the way while you reach in here and undo that hardware as well. And from the fender liner side here, we are going to remove these two 7mm screws and this 10mm nut. And then we'll need to repeat that process on the other side. All right, so we're ready to get this bumper pulled off here. This is a time to have a buddy come hang out, as you have one electrical connector on this side, two electrical connectors on that side that we need to undo. Having that buddy just makes that process easy. One of you can hold the bumper, the other one can undo the electrical connectors. And then you just need to find a place to set your bumper safely so we don't damage any paint. All right, so we're going to undo this electrical connector. Then we are going to undo the wire retention clip. Then we're going to undo the 6 7mm screws holding your taillight to the bumper. And then repeat this process for the other side. All right, so we've got the old taillights out. Awesome new taillights going in. Just make sure that they are seated correctly in here before you go bolting it down. And then you're going to bolt it back in place just like the old one, plug it in, and there you have it. This side's installed. Do the same thing for the other side. All right, so we're gonna get our light controller installed here. This is what gives us the ability to cycle through all the different modes and colors. It's a fairly simple piece to install. We are going to have 2 wires that hook to each taillight. Doesn't matter which one goes to which. These are gonna be the ones wrapped in the plastic sleeving. Then you're gonna have a red and black, which is an obvious 12-volt constant, and a chassis ground that needs to be hooked up. These are pre-terminated. You can run these to anywhere that you choose. I'll show you where we like to run them. It's just easy to get to. It does use a different terminal, of course, but it's easy to get to and easy to set up. But before we get it installed, you're gonna wanna take out your smartphone, scan the QR code on it so it gets you set up with the correct app to run and operate your taillights. And then I would recommend taking a picture of it as well so it gets your model number stuff here as well. We'll need that when opening the app and selecting the correct item so we can control our lights correctly. Let's get this put on. All right, so I've went ahead and installed some double-sided tape here on the back of it. You can use Velcro, whatever method you would like to use. We're gonna mount it somewhere in this area here. It doesn't have to be real particular. It can be kind of anywhere in this area that works for you. Just make sure you clean and prep surfaces if you're using double-sided tape or anything that sticks on here. All right, so we've got this installed here. We're actually gonna take our wiring, and if you route it through this little plastic vent here, or lift the little plastic vent here, there's some holes in here. So we'll be able to just kind of poke that wiring through into the trunk. But before we do that, we need to actually pull the carpet back here in the trunk so we can gain access to kind of where it comes through and be able to feed it through the car. Now we're gonna go ahead and get this carpet pulled back away from the back wall of the tub here. To do that, we're gonna remove these 2 anchors here on this side, as well as the 2 anchors on the other side. Then we will need to pull these 2 push clips. This little plastic piece here at the top does have a couple fingers, so you will need to lift up on it while pulling out. Let's get to it. And don't forget about your emergency pull handle that's down here. That kind of gets in your way. Just make sure that gets put back in place. All right, so from the outside there, like I said, we're gonna tuck it up through that little rubber deal on the outside and just through the corner of the vent here in the trunk. And we're just gonna pull all of that wiring up into our trunk. Little tech tip for you. I would advise putting a switch or some way to disconnect your power wires so that way when your vehicle sits, this box isn't constantly draining on your battery and you want to drive your Corvette and the battery's dead. There's no fun in that. So putting a little switch or something that you can manually shut it off when the car is going to be parked, especially if it's going to sit a few days, just so that way your battery stays up and charged. Let's get to finish wiring this. So the wiring is obviously a little bit too long for where we're going to hook the power and ground to, because we're going to this green connector right here on the side of the latch assembly. This has a power and ground in it that is constant that we can use to run our lights. So we'll need to unplug this green connector to make it easier. We'll need to trim a little of some of this insulation back. All right, so we're just going to use a couple Scotch locks here. This being inside the cabin, we don't need to worry about moisture getting to them too. So these are a simple solution. Using a little screwdriver, we're going to pull the red safety clip back here. And we're going to unplug this connector. You can disconnect the battery if you would like. Now on this little connector, you're going to notice there is a red wire here with a green stripe. That wire is going to attach to our red wire from our controller. And if we turn it around here to the other side, there's actually a black wire here that we're going to attach the black wire of the controller to. But we'll need to strip some insulation back here to give us plenty of room to do that. All right, so we're going to route our wires from our controller here just kind of along the harness here in the trunk and up to that green connector. And then we're going to add a little extra just for some extra leeway, and we're going to cut the excess off. All right, so we're going to grab our Scotch lock here. I've already got the red wire with the green stripe kind of pulled out here and easy to get to. we're gonna take and feed our power wire for our controller into this inside one here closest to where the little hinge folds over. And we're going to want to make sure that goes all the way inside to the stop. And then we're going to slide this red and green striped wire into this outside one. And then just kind of slide it up close to the back of the terminal. And with a pair of pliers, we're just going to press this little metal tab down. That actually punctures through the insulation and connects the wires for us. Once you've got that seated, then you will fold this over the top. That just locks everything together. And then we'll do the same thing for that black wire. And just like that, we've got it wired. We're going to get it plugged back in here. And the safety clip attached, and then just grab yourself a couple little zip ties and just kind of tie this up here so it stays out of the way. All right, so we've got the app open here. Before we get anything buttoned up here, we want to make sure we can locate and connect to the controller now that we have power and ground to it. So when we open the app, this is what you're gonna see. We're going to be looking here in the top, and we're going to be looking for the one that matches that number that we talked about on the face of the controller, which for us it is SP110E, and you're going to just click on it. And this is now linked to it, and this is where you're going to use to actually be able to turn the lights on and off. And now that we've verified it works, we can go ahead and get our trunk put back together and work on getting our bumper installed. All right, so we've got our control module installed. We have verified that we have the app installed on our phone, as well as verifying that we can locate the control module in the app. Now we're gonna finish up what we have here on the bumper so we can get the bumper reinstalled. All right, so now we need to take this red, green, and white wire out of each of these taillights. We're just gonna route it along the harness here towards the center and tie up any excess, as we need the connectors to kind of land in this area so we can plug them into our control module. All right, we're going to start by plugging in the 3 factory connectors. And plug in our taillight connectors. And put the bumper on. There you guys have it. Fairly simple install. Verify those lights work before you get your bumper finish installed. And then of course, you're gonna reinstall everything back in the reverse order of how you took it apart. And enjoy your awesome new lights and features. Keep your local PD happy. Make sure you shut them off before you go driving down the road. As always, like, subscribe, and comment. We'll see you guys next time.